Let us put aside the motivational speeches for a moment. Today, I am not going to teach you how to become a billionaire. I am going to talk about a much more terrifying reality. I am going to explain exactly why you are still broke despite working harder than anyone else you know. Most people think that being broke is just a temporary lack of cash. They think if they just get a 5% raise or work a few more hours of overtime, the pain will finally stop. They are completely wrong. Poverty is not a number in your bank account. It is a highly engineered mathematical trap. It is a closed-loop system designed to keep you inside, spinning your wheels until you simply run out of physical energy and die. You did everything society explicitly told you to do. You followed the exact blueprint they handed to you when you were a child. You went to school. You stayed out of trouble. You followed the rules, and you put your head down. You work 40, 50, or even 60 hours a week. You give the market the absolute best hours of your day. You give them your peak physical energy and your sharpest mental focus. You try your absolute best to be a responsible adult. You try to save a little bit of money from every paycheck. You skip the vacations. You buy the cheaper groceries. Yet at the end of every single month, when the math is finally calculated after the rent is paid, after the utility bills are paid, after the insurance and the taxes are deducted, you log into your banking application, you stare at the screen, and the balance is painfully, terrifyingly close to zero. You feel absolutely exhausted. You feel like you are running at maximum speed on a treadmill that keeps getting faster and faster. The incline is rising, your lungs are burning, and you are terrified because you know that if you simply twist your ankle, if you get sick for just 2 weeks, your entire financial life will completely collapse. When you feel this desperation, you naturally turn to the internet for answers. And what do you find? The financial media and the motivational speakers in the expensive suits point their fingers directly at you. A 22-year-old on social media standing in front of a rented sports car tells you that you are simply not grinding hard enough. They tell you that you need to wake up at 4 in the morning. They tell you that your poverty is the result of buying too many expensive coffees, or that you simply do not have the right positive mindset. They want you to internalize the blame. They want you to carry a deep, heavy, and toxic sense of personal shame. But today I am speaking directly to you, and I am here to completely remove that shame. I am here to tell you the brutal, unforgiving truth that the financial elites will never say out loud. You are not failing because you are lazy. You are not failing because you are unintelligent. You are failing because you are playing a financial game where the rules were meticulously designed, tested, and optimized to make you lose. You do not understand the physics of modern wealth. The modern economic machine does not thrive on the financial independence of the working class. It expands and survives entirely on your financial exhaustion. The system needs you to be just comfortable enough to keep showing up to work on Monday morning, but broke enough that you can never ever afford to walk away. You have been placed inside a highly sophisticated maze. This maze was engineered by people who deeply understand the mathematics of wealth, and it was built specifically to trap people who do not. If you are constantly stressing about money, if your credit card balances are growing while your income stays exactly the same, you must stop blaming your work ethic. Your work ethic is not the problem. Your poverty is not a moral failing. It is a fundamental misunderstanding of how capital actually operates in the real world. Today, we are going to completely strip away the illusions of the modern hustle culture. We are going to look at the global economy through the cold, emotionless eyes of a capital allocator. I am going to reveal the 3 absolute, undeniable reasons why you are still broke, despite working so incredibly hard. These are the invisible mechanisms that drain your wealth every single day. They are operating in the background of your life 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. They are silent, they are highly efficient, and they are happening to you right now. If you do not understand these 3 concepts, you will remain an economic servant for the rest of your natural life. No amount of hard work will save you. But once you see the strings controlling the puppets, everything changes. Once you understand the cold mathematics of the system, you can finally begin to build your escape route. Let us begin with the very first and perhaps the most devastating trap of them all. The very first reason you remain economically trapped is a concept I call the biological time equation. From the moment you entered the education system as a young child, you were conditioned to accept a very simple, seemingly logical formula. You were taught that you must trade a specific amount of your physical time in exchange for a piece of currency. If you want to acquire more currency, you are told that you simply need to work more hours. This equation is the single most destructive financial lie ever told to the working class. It is the fundamental algorithm that keeps billions of people in poverty. Let us look at the cold, undeniable mathematics of this equation. As a human being, you possess a strict, inflexible biological limit. There are exactly 24 hours in a single day. You cannot borrow more time, you cannot print more time, and you cannot save today's time to use tomorrow. Out of those 24 hours, you must sleep for at least 8 of them just to repair your biological hardware. If you do not sleep, your body will simply shut down. You must spend another 3 to 4 hours commuting in traffic, buying groceries, cooking meals, and maintaining your basic physical existence. This leaves you with a finite, tightly restricted, and incredibly small window of time that you can actually sell to an employer. Because your inventory of time is strictly limited by the laws of physics, your potential income has a hard mathematical ceiling. It does not matter if you are flipping burgers for $15 an hour, or if you are a corporate manager making $50 an hour, you are still trapped in the exact same mathematical cage. You are essentially renting out your physical existence to a corporation. If you stop showing up, if you get sick, or if you simply want to rest, the money immediately stops flowing. Furthermore, you must deeply understand how the global labor market actually views you. The market is not your family. The market is not your friend. The market is an emotionless, cold, calculating machine. It does not pay you based on how physically exhausted you are at the end of the day. It does not pay you based on your moral goodness. It does not pay you based on your loyalty to the company. And it certainly does not care how much you need the money to feed your children or pay your mortgage. The market pays you based on one metric, and one metric only. It pays you based on your replacement cost. It pays you based on how difficult you are to replace. If you are performing a task, whether it is physical manual labor, moving boxes in a warehouse, or typing numbers into a corporate spreadsheet, you must ask yourself a terrifying question. If the company fired you today, could they pull a random person off the street and train them to do your exact job in 30 days? If the answer is yes, then your true economic leverage is fundamentally zero. In the eyes of the system, you are a biological consumable. You are a highly replaceable, low-cost gear in a massive wealth-generating machine that is owned by someone else. If you break down, if you complain, or if you ask for too much money, the machine will not stop to help you. It will simply eject you and insert a cheaper, younger gear without a single second of hesitation. This brings us to a profound realization. True capital allocators, the individuals who actually build generational wealth, refuse to participate in the biological time equation. They never sell their physical time for money. Instead of selling their time, they build, acquire, and command leverage. Imagine 2 men standing in a massive field of dirt. The first man is handed a simple iron shovel. He is told to dig a trench. He works for 12 grueling hours under the burning sun. He swings the shovel thousands of times. His back aches, his hands are covered in bleeding blisters, and his muscles are completely exhausted. At the end of the day, he has moved 1 ton of dirt. He is paid $100. The second man refuses to touch the shovel. Instead, he spends an entire month in his room reading manuals on learning how to operate a massive, highly advanced mechanical excavator. When he finally arrives at the field, he climbs into an air-conditioned cabin. He sits in a comfortable chair, uses 2 fingers to gently pull a joystick, and the machine moves 100 tons of dirt in a single hour. He is paid $1,000, and he does not break a single drop of sweat. The economic machine does not care that the first man sweat more. The system does not care that his job was physically harder or that his hands were bleeding. The market only rewards the output and the immense leverage used to achieve it. If you are completely exhausted at the end of every single week, it is because you are still digging with a shovel. You are relying entirely on the raw, unscaled energy of your own physical body. Leverage is the only mechanism on earth that can separate your income from your physical presence. Leverage is a piece of software code that works for you while you are sleeping. Leverage is an automated business system. Leverage is a piece of digital media that can be viewed by 1 million people at the exact same time at zero marginal cost. If you have to be physically awake and present at a specific location to generate income, you are not a capital owner. You are an economic servant. Asking your boss for a 20% raise will never make you wealthy because you are still confined inside the biological trap. You must undergo a fundamental metamorphosis. You must transition from a laborer who sells time to an operator who commands leverage. But let us assume you are incredibly disciplined. Let us assume you work the extra hours, you suffer through the physical exhaustion, and you actually manage to save a portion of that hard-earned money. You put it in a savings account thinking you are finally getting ahead. This is exactly where the system springs its second most insidious trap. It is a silent, invisible mechanism designed to slowly drain whatever wealth you have managed to keep. And that brings us to the second undeniable reason you are still broke. The second undeniable reason you are still broke is a highly engineered economic phenomenon that I call the saver's punishment. From the moment you were handed your very first piggy bank as a child, society began programming you with a specific financial narrative. You were taught that saving cash is the ultimate financial virtue. You were told to work hard, spend less than you earn, and put the difference into a safe, secure bank account. You were promised that if you simply accumulated enough of these paper certificates, you would eventually reach financial freedom. This is not just bad advice, it is a mathematical death sentence for your wealth. To understand why saving money guarantees your poverty, you must first understand what modern money actually is. The cash in your wallet and the digits on your banking application are fiat currency. They are not backed by gold, they are not backed by silver, and they are not backed by any physical constraint of reality. They are entirely backed by the artificial trust placed in a central government. Because the currency is not tied to anything physical, the people who control the system have the absolute power to create an infinite amount of it out of thin air. Imagine you walk into a massive, beautiful bank building made of marble and glass. You walk up to the counter and you hand the teller $10,000. That money represents hundreds of hours of your biological time. It represents your sweat, your stress, and your sacrificed youth. The bank takes your life energy, locks it in a digital vault, and pays you a fraction of a percent in interest. You feel incredibly proud, you feel safe, you believe you are building a fortress for your family. But while you are sleeping, the system is actively attacking your fortress. Whenever a government needs to fund a massive deficit, whenever they need to bail out failing financial institutions, or whenever they want to stimulate an exhausted economy, they do not raise your income taxes. Raising physical taxes angers the public and causes political instability. Instead, they use a much more sophisticated weapon. They use the invisible tax of inflation. The central banks simply press a button on a computer and trillions of new dollars are instantly injected into the global economy. But you must understand a fundamental law of physics. Creating new currency does not create new wealth. It simply dilutes the purchasing power of every single dollar that already exists. When they print 1 trillion new dollars, they are legally and silently siphoning the value straight out of your marble bank account. Let us look at the brutal mathematics of this invisible robbery. Let us assume you worked incredibly hard for 5 years to save $50,000. You'll leave it perfectly untouched in your savings account. Over the next decade, the system engineers an inflation rate that averages 5 to 7% a year. 10 years later, you log into your account. The number on the screen still says $50,000. Your brain tricks you into thinking your wealth is perfectly intact. But when you go to the marketplace to buy a house, to buy groceries, or to pay for medical care, you suddenly realize a horrifying truth. The prices of everything around you have doubled. Your $50,000 now buys exactly half of what it could have bought 10 years ago. Nobody broke into your house, nobody hacked your bank account, yet 50% of your accumulated life energy was perfectly and legally stolen from you while you were trying to be a responsible citizen. This is why saving cash is fundamentally a trap. Cash is not a reliable store of value. Cash is a melting ice cube sitting in a warm room. If you hold on to it for too long, it will simply disappear into a puddle of nothingness. The financial elites, the billionaires, and the true capital allocators understand this invisible tax perfectly. This is why the wealthy do not hoard cash. They view cash as a radioactive liability. They view it as a temporary medium of exchange that must be immediately converted into something real. The moment a true capital allocator receives a large sum of currency, they instantly deploy it. They buy commercial real estate, they buy scarce commodities, they buy ownership stakes in profitable businesses, they buy productive farmland, they buy hard assets that the government cannot print on a computer. When a system prints trillions of dollars and causes massive inflation, the poor and the middle class are completely crushed because the cost of their survival becomes overwhelmingly expensive. But the wealthy actually celebrate, because as the value of the paper currency collapses, the numerical value of their hard assets explodes upward. Inflation is the exact mechanism that constantly transfers wealth from the bank accounts of the working class directly into the portfolios of the capital owners. If your entire financial strategy relies on stacking paper currency in a savings account, you are playing a game of financial suicide. You are voluntarily paying the invisible tax. But what happens when the working class realizes that their savings are being wiped out? What happens when you realize you cannot afford the life you were promised, but you still desperately want to look like you are succeeding? This leads us directly into the third and final trap. It is a psychological prison that you voluntarily lock yourself inside, and it is the ultimate reason you will never escape the cycle. The third and final undeniable reason you remain economically paralyzed is a psychological prison that I call funding the illusion. When the working class realizes that their hourly wages are mathematically capped and their saved cash is being actively destroyed by inflation, a deep, silent sense of panic sets in. You look at the rising cost of housing, you look at your stagnant income, and you realize that acquiring true wealth feels almost mathematically impossible. But human beings possess a desperate biological need for social status. We want to feel respected. We want to feel like we are winning the game. And if you cannot actually be wealthy, the system offers you a very convenient, highly destructive alternative. It allows you to pay money to look wealthy. This is the invisible mechanism of the ego tax. The ego tax is the premium you voluntarily pay to convince people you do not even like that you have money you do not actually possess. From the moment you received your very first paycheck, the consumer matrix has bombarded you with a highly specific narrative. The television commercials, the billboards, and the social media influencers all tell you the same lie. They tell you that a brand new luxury vehicle is a symbol of your intelligence and success. They tell you that a designer wardrobe and a $1,000 smartphone are symbols of your personal worth. But to acquire these symbols of success, you do not use real capital. You use the most toxic financial instrument ever invented. You use consumer debt. Let us examine the cold, brutal mathematics of this illusion. You walk into a car dealership and you sign a financing contract for a $50,000 vehicle. You do not actually have $50,000. So the bank graciously loans you the money at an 8% interest rate. The exact moment you drive that vehicle off the dealership lot, it mathematically loses 20% of its market value. You are now paying high interest on a rapidly depreciating piece of metal. You have just traded the next 5 years of your biological time, your future labor, your future sweat, and your future freedom just to pay for a depreciating liability that you bought today. The exact same mathematical destruction applies to your credit cards. When you swipe a piece of plastic at a 24% interest rate to buy designer clothes or to pay for a luxury vacation you cannot afford, you are committing an act of absolute financial self-sabotage. There is no legal investment on the planet that consistently yields a 24% return year after year. Therefore, if you carry that interest rate as a debt, you are mathematically guaranteed to lose the game. It is a biological certainty. The system has successfully turned you into a voluntary economic slave. You wake up every single morning and go to a job you deeply dislike, not to build your own financial empire, but to pay the monthly interest to the bankers who financed your illusion. Look closely at the society around you. The people you see driving the brand new luxury SUVs, wearing the heavy gold watches, and posting photographs from expensive restaurants are very rarely the true owners of capital. In the vast majority of cases, they are one missed paycheck away from total financial ruin. They are drowning in the dark, suffocating ocean of consumer debt, but they are spending whatever tiny fraction of energy they have left to paint their sinking ship gold. They fear looking poor much more than they fear actually being poor. True capital allocators operate on the exact opposite frequency. If you want to understand real wealth, you must understand a very counterintuitive truth. Wealth is exactly what you do not see. Wealth is the $60,000 luxury car that was never purchased. Wealth is the expensive vacation that was skipped. Wealth is the designer watch that was left sitting in the store window. Wealth is the quiet accumulation of financial assets, real estate, and digital leverage that produce cash flow in the dark. The truly wealthy individuals drive reliable, unassuming, and inexpensive vehicles. They live far below their mathematical means. They completely and utterly refuse to pay the ego tax because they value their absolute independence far more than the temporary admiration of strangers at a traffic light. When you have zero consumer debt and a portfolio of productive assets, you possess something that the illusion chasers will never have. You have the ultimate power to say no. You can walk away from a toxic employer. You can sleep perfectly peacefully, through a massive global economic recession. You own your time. By funding the illusion of success with credit cards and auto loans, you are willingly locking the door to your own prison cell and handing the key directly to the banks. You must immediately stop trying to look rich and start doing the brutal, invisible work required to actually become rich. But how do you do this? How do you stop the bleeding and rebuild your life from absolute zero now that you finally see the traps? That brings us to the final chapter, the escape protocol. We have now completely stripped away the illusions. You have looked at the economic machine through the cold eyes of a capital allocator, and you finally see the matrix for exactly what it is. You understand the biological time equation and why trading your physical hours for currency is a mathematical dead end. You understand the saver's punishment and how inflation silently siphons your life energy out of your bank account. And you understand the ego tax, the psychological prison of consumer debt that keeps the middle class paralyzed. Most people who hear these truths will feel a brief moment of anger. They will complain about the government, they will complain about their boss, and then on Monday morning they will go right back to the exact same treadmill. Do not be most people. Complaining about the system does not build wealth. The system is a machine. It does not care if you are angry. You cannot change the rules of the global economy, but you can absolutely change how you play the game. If you want to break out of the maze, you must initiate what I call the escape protocol. It consists of 3 brutal, non-negotiable steps. Step 1 is to immediately stop the bleeding. You must eradicate your consumer debt with ruthless, extreme aggression. You must treat a 24% interest rate on a credit card like a deadly virus inside your house. It is a mathematical emergency. You must completely stop paying the ego tax today. You do not need the new smartphone. You do not need to eat at the expensive restaurant to impress people who do not actually care about you. If you are financing a luxury car that you cannot afford, sell it, buy a cheap, reliable vehicle with cash. You must willingly endure a temporary period of looking poor in order to do the invisible work of actually becoming rich. Step 2 is to completely decouple your income from your physical time. You must build or acquire leverage. I am not telling you to quit your job tomorrow. You need your job to survive while you build your escape vehicle. But your life can no longer end at 5 o'clock in the afternoon. From 6 o'clock in the evening until midnight, you are no longer an employee, you are a capital builder. You must use those hours to learn a high leverage skill, learn how to write software code, learn high ticket sales, learn digital marketing, build an online business, or create a piece of digital media. You must create something, anything, that can be duplicated or scaled without requiring your physical presence. You need a system that continues to generate value while you are sleeping. You are no longer digging with a shovel. You are spending your nights building a mechanical excavator. Step 3 is the ultimate asset conversion. As you eliminate your debt and your leverage begins to generate additional income, you will finally have a surplus of cash. This is the most critical moment of your financial life. You must not leave that cash sitting in a marble bank building to be melted away by inflation. The moment you have a surplus, you must deploy it. You must convert your fiat currency into hard, productive assets. You buy broad market index funds. You buy shares of profitable cash-flowing businesses. You buy real estate. Every time you purchase an income-producing asset, you are buying a tiny piece of your own freedom. You are buying back your future Mondays. You are transforming yourself from a biological gear in someone else's machine into the owner of your own machine. Escaping the working class trap is the hardest thing you will ever do. It requires a level of discipline, sacrifice, and mathematical coldness that 99% of society simply does not possess. You will lose friends who want to keep playing the status game. People will call you cheap. People will say you are obsessed. Let them talk. They are arguing from inside the prison cell. You now know the physics of wealth. You know that money is not a reward for hard work. Money is a byproduct of leverage, ownership, and value creation. The economic maze was designed to keep you lost. But the door has never been locked. It is sitting wide open, waiting for you to simply walk through it. The rules of the game have been revealed. The only question left is, how are you going to play? That's all. Thanks for watching.